Welcome back to the Midnight Scooby Show! And tonight I'm going to be recapping the Laff-a-Lympics for Paris and Australia. Now, this was an event that was spread out between these two locations and saw the Scooby-Doobies, the Yogi-Yahooies, and the Really Rottens compete in 4 total events to see who will become victorious. Now, this is a really good event, I will say. The competition was really good. All teams, I think, did a really great showing. And I will say, though, the Really Rottens, though, they were up to their usual behavior. They did cheat a lot in this competition, and it did cost them at the very end, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's talk about how they did throughout the other races. When the Really Rottens were competing in the bicyclist race, they were pretty much doing pretty well, but they decided to use balloons to get ahead of the competition. Didn't really work out for them in the end because they couldn't pop them fast enough. The Eiffel Tower climbing up race, Will the Octopus did a pretty good job, but they used magnets to get up there. But I will say this is not their worst behavior in this competition. That did came at the very end. Now, when they were in Australia, though, for that boomerang race, my goodness, they definitely cheated because they used a remote-controlled boomerang so it would get right back to the Dread Baron. But I think their worst offense in this competition was at the very end when they used a mechanical kangaroo in the kangaroo race. Now, I will say that's not a bad thing, you know, there's no rules. Of course, they couldn't use a mechanical kangaroo, but the big problem came because it was actually controlled by 2 of the Dalton brothers. Not good, really. Let's talk about how the Scooby-Doobies did in this competition. I think they did a pretty good job. The bicyclist race was pretty good. They did a good showing, but I think Dynamite had a little struggle with some of the curves, and that did cost them the first place. Now, in the climbing the Eiffel Tower, they did great. I thought, you know, Captain Caveman could really do it, but I do think that slippery trick by the Really Rottens just really cost them this whole thing, and they couldn't really compete with Grape Ape, right? When it came to the boomerang race, Blue Falcon did a great job. Great showing, but they did a little bit too much force and the boomerang just went away. It never came back. Or did it? Yes, that's right. They won the competition because it went around the world before it got back to Blue Falcon's hands. That was great. Now, in the kangaroo race, I think it was probably their weaker showing, but they did a really good job. The main problem was with the kangaroo was more dancing and hopscotching their way to victory. The Yogi-Yahooies did a great job throughout this competition. They were constantly on first place, and they did a really good showing. I think in the bicyclist race, Quick Draw and McGraw did great until, of course, that hill, but they managed to overcome it. Grape Ape did struggle a bit with the Eiffel Tower climb, but it did just pull it down, so pretty smarts there. And unfortunately, with the boomerang toss, it did get to the flagpole, but didn't come back. And in the kangaroo race, they did a great job until the Scooby-Doobies got a little bit ahead of them. And unfortunately, the Really Rottens mechanical kangaroo did cost them, I feel, the overall event. Because I think they would have won it if it wasn't for that kangaroo breaking down and putting that part there and the kangaroo tripping on it. So, after all 4 events, it did seem that the Really Rottens were the winners. They would have the most points, but it was discovered, while kangaroo being mechanical was not against the rules, there was the problem that it was controlled by the Dalton brothers, and that did allow the Scooby-Doobies to win the competition, and of course, the Yogi-Yahooies in 2nd, and the Really Rottens in 3rd place. So that is the recap of the Paris, Australia Laff-a-Lympics. It was a pretty good competition, and I think all 3 teams did a great job. So what did you all think of the Paris, Australia Laff-a-Lympics? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.